Good afternoon, this is Brian. Today is Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. I am in the West Coyote Hills in Fullerton, North Orange County, Southern California, and I want to do a spotlight on plants video today. Today's spotlight is on the California Croton, and this is the plant right here. This is Croton californicus. Croton californicus is a small, low-growing, perennial sub-shrub in the Euphorbia family, the Euphorbiaceae. It is characterized by a fairly low-growing habit, as you can see here, kind of sprawling, maybe mostly herbaceous. However, the base of the stems might get slightly woody. And it is a relatively scattered plant of, I would say its occurrence is fairly scattered, mostly in coastal sage scrub and open sunny areas, and often in very sandy soil. Sandy soil is usually the preferred habitat for Croton californicus. Again, the plant is characterized by many branched stems, again, getting slightly woody towards the base, but not a strongly woody plant by any means. The lower stems might have some slightly grayish bark, maybe slightly grayish, slightly woody. And so we refer to this plant more as a sub-shrub as opposed to a full woody shrub. Full woody shrubs being like that large toyon right there, which is a fully woody shrub, and that's Heteromeles arbustifolia. California Croton is mostly woody just at the base. So it's quite an interesting plant. It's characterized by these relatively narrow ovate leaves, sometimes broader, a little bit closer to the base, sometimes almost broadest at the middle, as you can see on that one there. And being a small plant, it's often very easily overlooked, especially in relatively heavily vegetated areas like this right here in the coastal sage scrub. It's one of two species of Croton that grows here in Southern California. The other species is an annual herb called Croton setigerus, which used to be known as Arambocarpus setigerus, and that's called doveweed. And interestingly enough, there's Anaida macrura, the mourning dove, but there's no, I don't see any Croton setigerus here. I have seen it, I believe I've seen it in this area. This is called the Robert E. Ward Nature Preserve here in Fullerton in the Coyote Hills. That plant you'll be more likely to see in extremely disturbed areas along trail sides. These plants can also be found sometimes in disturbed areas, but a lot of times you're going to want very, very well-drained sandy soils. That's the preferred soil of this plant, Croton californicus. And unlike Croton setigerus, this plant is perennial. Croton setigerus is a summer annual. So, other things that make this plant stand out. One thing is this plant is dioecious. In other words, male and female flowers are on separate plants. So that means the male plants will have no fruit on them, as the female plants will. So the male plant in the male flowers are these really small structures. These little greenish white structures. I'm going to try to see if I can just hold it still enough for it to focus. Right here, these are the male flowers. Kind of small, kind of greenish white. Probably hard for the average wildflower watcher to really focus in on because they're really small. Of course, for people like me, I think every plant's beautiful in its own way, so I think it's pretty neat. And they are born a lot of times at the end of stems where branching occurs. So like at the end of this one where it forks off, you'll see a cluster of male flowers. And also at the very end of stems as well, you'll see these little clusters of these male greenish white flowers. And I could tell these are male flowers because I could see the anthers with the pollen on them. So this is a male plant. The female plants, the major difference is the female flowers are very different looking. These are the female flowers right here. And they're kind of small, kind of round and globular in shaped. And I'm trying to hold it steady enough so we can get a little focus on it. I can see the pistils on it and the stigma where the flowers will receive the pollen. So this is what the female flower looks like. It's more rounded and it doesn't have the little whitish green structures on it like the male flowers. And I can see where the stigmas are here on the very end, these little fuzzy looking things at the very end. That's what receives the pollen. So after the flowers get pollinated on the female plants, then develop the fruits. And the fruit of Croton californicus is a 3-chambered seed capsule, quite a bit like a lot of the Euphorbiaceae. A lot of Euphorbiaceae, they develop these 3-chambered seed capsules right here, with the small seeds inside of it. Eventually they'll split open and the seeds will be released into the soil. So you can see here, this one has been fertilized, and I can see the little structures on it, the little stigmas still attached to it, but it looks like this one was fertilized and is developing into the 3-chambered seed capsule. And just like on the male plants, the female flowers are often found where the twigs branch or at the end of the twigs, as you can see here. So if you were to grow this plant in cultivation, again, it likes very quickly draining soils. It will not do well in clays and loams. You're probably going to want to keep the soil relatively sandy. And again, well drained is the name for Croton californicus. Check my video details for the full range of this plant, but it is quite a common fixture. I would say not super common in my experience, but locally common in openings, sunny openings, coastal sage scrub, openings of chaparral, and I've also seen it as high as 5,200 feet on Palomar Mountain in San Diego County, where it was growing underneath canyon live oaks and incense cedars. So it does have quite a wide elevation range. We're a few hundred feet above sea level here, maybe about 300 to 500 feet above sea level here. But I have seen it as high as 5,200 feet at Silvercrest Picnic Area, again at Palomar Mountain. So, Croton californicus. Another thing you'll notice is that the leaves have a little slight pubescence. Very, very slight. Very hard to notice, but you'll notice they kind of have a grayish color. That is the drought survival adaptation that this plant possesses to keep it from desiccating, especially during our extremely long dry summers, which are exacerbated when we have long dry winters like we did this year. So with the slight pubescence or fuzziness and the grayish color accounted for by the slight fuzziness, affords this plant a way to prevent itself from drying out too quickly. So what the fuzziness on the leaves does is it kind of traps a little bit of the humidity lost through transpiration. In other words, the water vapor that is lost through the plant tissues from being in the hot sun. So it traps a little layer of humidity around the leaves, so it does retard some water loss. And also the light color afforded by these little miniature hairs that are barely noticeable. You have to really look close to see them. You'll see it looks a little fuzzy when you look at them really up close. The fuzziness creates that light color that also reflects some of the sunlight away. So it has quite a few ways to survive the summer dryness. And we're in a summer dry, winter moist climate in most of these areas. So again, coastal sage scrub, disturbed areas, sandy soils, quick draining. Not a super long-lived plant, several years, but I don't know if they live well. I don't know if they live more than a couple decades, if even that. Maybe a decade or less. But again, male, female plants are separate, so the fruits and the pollen flowers are on separate plants. And it's quite an interesting little plant here of our coastal sage scrub. So there you have it. Croton californicus, California croton, member of the Euphorbiaceae. Thanks for watching my Spotlight on Plants video. I hope you found this informative, helpful in identifying flora here in Southern California. Thanks for watching. See you on the next Spotlight.